This week on Ask an Expert, Antivax. Welcome to Ask an Expert, the show where you submit questions to be answered by people around the school. I'm your host, Kieran Lanois. This week on Ask an Expert, our question is, why are anti-vax ideas spreading? Here to answer our question is Mr. Armitage, one of our biology teachers. Welcome, Mr. Armitage. Can you help us answer this question?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me start with what vaccines are. And basically, vaccines are the introduction of a dead or, severely weakened antigen, which is something that may cause disease, into a human being to boot their immune system. Their immune system recognizes the weakened or dead particle, and the immune system goes through all the stages it has to go through to build the memory cell. So the next time it sees that antigen, it kills it before it causes any disease. And the actual vaccine does not cause disease. Okay, no matter how many people get their flu shot and then say, well, 3 weeks later I got the flu, or I was sick, or I got diarrhea. Okay.
So why is anti-vax spreading?
Okay, well, for a number of reasons, and probably the biggest reason, I should say that, right from the time vaccines were invented by, Edward Jenner, the anti-vax movement started. People started publishing images of the, Jenner used the cowpox virus to vaccinate against smallpox, and people started publishing pictures of people with cow parts growing on them. So that kind of hysteria has been there, always been there. But probably the biggest boost to it happened with Andrew Wakefield, who was a doctor who published a fraudulent study. He did a study on his own child plus a couple other kids, really small group, and had a preconceived notion already because his son was autistic, that it was the vaccines that caused the autism. And he published it and managed to get through peer review and anyway, it got through peer review and was published, but later on it was shown that he published fraudulent results, and it's been withdrawn. But it doesn't matter, because once those things are out, you just can't put them back. It's like toothpaste in a tube. And so people have run with it, and now with all the social media, people get in their echo chambers, and they already have made up their mind, and they search out information to reaffirm what they already believe, which is that autism or vaccines cause some sort of disease.
Now, is anti-vax dangerous?
Absolutely. It's not just you, so there's something called herd immunity that occurs when people are getting vaccinated. And for something like measles, 95% of the population needs to be vaccinated to keep measles from spreading. And there's some people who can't be vaccinated, those who have a compromised immune system, maybe people who are going through cancer treatment, people with HIV, people who have an allergy to the actual vaccine or some adjuvant in the vaccine. And we got to protect those people. And it's our responsibility to do that. So when you get vaccinated, you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting the people who can't protect themselves. Infant babies who are too young to be vaccinated, the people who are most vulnerable, you need to be protected. Because people don't know somebody with like you said, polio. My mom had polio when she was a kid, and she was lucky. She didn't end up paralyzed, but lots of people she knew did. And we just don't know anybody who's had polio. We don't know anybody who's had smallpox, And then we got people telling us, well, these diseases, they help build your immune system. If you actually catch the disease itself, it's better for you, which is absolutely false. You hear them say, oh, get measles, it builds your immune system. No, if you actually get the disease of measles, it weakens your immune system for 3 years after you've got it. It leaves you open to more other diseases. So, no, it's crazy. You walk through a graveyard and then look back 100 years and you'll see it's full of kids under 5 years old. And then as you come further along with more and more vaccines through the 50s, those go away. And, was it in the 1800s, you could expect, 3 out of 5 of your children not to make it to 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And it's just not the case anymore. So, and then other people are selfish enough to think, well, other people get vaccinated, I'll let them take the risk and I won't do it myself.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway.
What's your view on like herbal supplements and treatment like that? Because I remember just hearing like a case of like these parents getting sued because neglect. Is that because they treated their kids herbally instead of?
Yeah, there was a case in Alberta where the child ended up with meningitis, and the parents wouldn't take him to the doctor and took him to a naturopath, and naturopath said, well, use these maple syrup and horseradish and whatever, ginger root, and anyway, the kid ended up getting sicker and sicker. And they had a nurse live next door to him too, and the nurse had told him, this kid's sick, you need to go to the hospital. And by the time they decided to get the kid to the hospital, the kid had gone stiff, and they couldn't even get him in the car seat. And it was too late. And even though you may have convictions on how medicine should work, you don't have the right to withhold proper medical treatment from your children. So anyway, my feeling on herbal medicines is they're fine if you are using them as a addition maybe to evidence-based medicine, but instead of, and when they start making claims that they just can't substantiate, then they're dangerous. And if your naturopath is telling you they can cure cancer, you should be asking for evidence, not, oh, it worked for so-and-so. No, that's not evidence, that's anecdote. Once alternative medicine has evidence to back it up, it's no longer alternative medicine. Now it's evidence-based medicine.
And when you think of probably most pills and most medications come from natural things that they discovered, and then they just took the main thing.
Sure, and unfortunately, that can be misleading for people. They'll think that, oh, well, it's natural, it must be better somehow, and that just it doesn't add up. Cyanide's natural, hemlock's natural, yeah. So.
Yes. Well, I think that answers our question. Is there anything else you'd want to say to anti-vaxxers and trying to persuade them and give more facts on how vaccinations can actually help?
Well, the thing with the anti-vaccine, and I can understand from some point of view, like when you walk into the doctor's office or to the pharmacist to get your vaccination, you're healthy when you walk in, you feel fine, right? So the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to feel worse walking out. You're going to get a sore shoulder or something. So sometimes people sort of equate that to, the immediate effect. They start to think, well, that's terrible. They don't consider the long term. But for people who are anti-vax, you got to get out of your echo chamber. You got to talk to your healthcare professional. Your healthcare professional should be a medical doctor, not your acupuncturist, not your massage therapist, not your chiropractor, but your medical doctor. They're the people who are your immunologist. They're the people who know about vaccines. Get out of your echo chamber, ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. You should ask questions, but don't ask questions with already preconceived notion that the answer is no. Okay. I always say to my students, right? How does it feel to be wrong? And they always say, oh, it feels bad. And I say, well, no, it doesn't. It feels the same as being right. What feels bad is finding out you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing. People go through life being wrong, and they're perfectly happy to spout it off, and they're perfectly happy to go around believing these things. It's when you try to change their mind that starts to feel bad, so they don't change their mind. Mm-hmm. So.
Thank you, Mr. Armitage, and I believe that will help a lot of people understand how useful and how thankful we are to have these new medications and new medicine to help so many people. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
That's it for this week's Ask an Expert, but we're always looking for new questions. Tweet them at @PA Carlton with the hashtag Ask an Expert, and we'll find someone who can answer them for you. See you next week.